There are some massive changes coming to the city of Toronto and the greater Toronto area because of Bill 23. I reached out to a former city planner who's currently working in the private sector to pick his brain and find out what kind of opportunities he sees in the future for people like myself who are in real estate. I will be releasing the full video next week. It's about an hour long. We cover a ton of topics, but in this video, I'm going to give you a little sneak peek in terms of what we talk about. I currently have a listing that I found very interesting. The layout is very unique. It was built in 1988 and with very little modification, depending on how Bill 23 is rolled out, this could become a triplex of the future with very little modification required. We're going to go through this example. I'm going to pick his brain and you're going to get to see how I'm thinking about it and kind of how he reacts to my proposal. The real estate market is moving more towards multi-generational living because of housing price. So I think this is likely going to be the future for us, whether we like it or not. That being said, if this is the type of content you want to see in the future, please like this video, subscribe to the channel. And as always, my name is Vas and I'm a full-time real estate broker right here in the greater Toronto area where I help investors and families navigate the insanity of our real estate market. Enjoy the video. 3 units on one lot. So landowners in low-rise residential areas will be able to build up to 3 units on a lot in the form of 3-unit building or 2-unit building and accessory dwelling. So I know we talked about laneway suites and all this other stuff. We know to date, usually the typical setup is you buy a house, let's say an East York bungalow, and the way they're already set up, they're perfectly set up for an illegal basement downstairs, which is how most of them are. And Bob's your uncle, and then you collect your rent. And they're basically de facto gray market duplexes, as far as what I used to call them anyway. So I grew up in East York, so I know a lot of people did that. Now, with this 3 units on one lot, I wanted to show you something. I'm going to show you a floor plan. This is a listing that I have coming out. And after I saw this layout, this was built in 1988, and I found it very interesting. So it's a 3,100 square foot home in Scarborough. Now, what you're looking at right here is it's a guest bedroom with an ensuite. Yep. And it's over a garage. So as you can imagine, it's about 400 square feet. And this picture right here shows the man door into the garage, and then there's a door into the house and into the basement. So looking at this, I thought to myself, this is basically a triplex in plain sight that's hidden. Now, not based on today's zoning and what's allowed, but I'm thinking to myself, and tell me how out to lunch I am, and if I am. You have this house with effectively the floor plate of the house is about 1,000 square feet. So you have this 1,000 square foot basement that you can gain access through the garage. And then this guest bedroom with an ensuite above the garage where you could do a fire escape on the side. I mean, I don't know if that probably wouldn't be allowed, but I'm just thinking out loud. And then you close it off to the main house. So you effectively have a main house, you have a studio here, and then you have a full basement. So when it comes to this 3-unit thing that will potentially be allowed in the future, I'm thinking, to me, this is obviously one of the cheaper, most effective ways to repurpose existing space without building anything extra. You're just kind of accommodating for building code, fire, and all that stuff. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's a number of ways to cut up the floor plan here that would be a really interesting use of space. Whether you do a stairwell on the outside or whether you even, I don't know if you repurpose part of the garage, you lose one of the bays and you create some interior space there that leads to the upstairs. Whether you get rid of the garage entirely, because you've got 2 parking spaces in the front yard there, you could also create a secondary access to the ground floor unit, or keep that as an access to the second floor unit, blow out the garage and have some more living space in there, take the main staircase out of the ground floor, and then create like a large open kind of living space. You probably get good light in there too, depending on which way this is facing, because you could put some large windows on the outside. It would be interesting. I grew up in Oshawa, and in the newer parts of Oshawa, you see a lot of houses like the snout homes with the garage right up front. You got to walk around the side to get into the house, and you don't really have eyes on the street in the same way, unless you're sitting up in your bedroom and you're looking out the window there. But most people, don't do that without a purpose. So you don't have like a living room, facing out onto the street. And the buildings are set back a little ways too. And I think, it would be nice from even just like a neighborhood point of view, if a bunch of the houses that were designed like this kind of repurposed that front garage into something that was a little more front yard facing, a little more neighborhood facing. And I think it would be a great use of space. There's a lot of options here. One of the things that the staff at Toronto who are working on the multiplex housing stuff did they did this design exercise where they reached out to a bunch of industry professionals through the Urban Land Institute, and they took a bunch of different sort of housing types and typical layouts in Toronto in different areas, and then the architects, you know, at, whether it was through adding an addition or just using the existing structure, figured out how to repurpose them as multiplexes, and then figured out what the roadblocks were. And that was a really helpful exercise in determining, like I said, how do you get out of the way? So, yeah, I'd love to see, because there's so much space here. I'd love to see if you just handed this over to an architect that does this stuff and said, "Hey, have at it. Put 3 units in this." I'm sure they'd find some fantastic combinations.
So that's kind of what I'm, because I'm just thinking from, I have a lot of investor clients, and obviously everybody looks at this or creating multiple units. They're looking at it from the path of least resistance, right? So if you can use the existing structure like this, I think laneway houses, they make sense where they are, right? Downtown, where you don't have houses like this, right? So that's where they make sense. But then when you get into the, further out where the homes are bigger, the lots are bigger, I'm trying to think from an investor's point of view, or not even from an investor's point of view. If I'm buying a house, and let's say I'm thinking about multi-generational living in the future, what kind of house is going to suit me best? So obviously, yeah, big house is great because the basement, da 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 da. But this is interesting because it's not that often I come across something like this, where with very little effort, you already have natural separation to 3 units out of the gate. And this is a very unique property, but my father lives in California, and in California, what they've already started doing, and again, I don't know the legalities of it, but garages there are already converted to living space in a lot of cases. And I don't know where we stand on that, and I don't know if that's going to be the future here as well. But it seems like if you have a regular suburban home, it almost seems like basement number one and then garage number two, provided you're within a GO train station or public transit, right? Because I don't think they're going to allow you to start parking cars on the street, but I don't know.
I mean, they should. You could land a plane on some of the roads
That's
in the
true.
periphery of the city. It's kind of absurd. You can't park there, but
that is true.
yeah, and even like the people park on the bottom part of the driveways on the boulevard part past the sidewalk, in these cases. But anyway, no, I think like something like this is great opportunity in any context, across the city, because you have, I mean, how big are those floors? I mean, they're probably 1,000+ square feet.
Yeah, they're over like 1,100 at least per floor plate. Yeah.
You could do amazing units in there. And you were talking about an aging in place perspective. You could have all the space you need there for, 2+ bedrooms, big kitchen, living room, and no stairs. Never worry about stairs. And then you have, rentals on either side. And one of the reasons I like the door on the front is I think it gives more of a sense of like that you're not kind of scurrying around back to get into your unit. Like you rent the upper floor, but you're still, just as much a part of the community as anybody else. You're walking straight in the front door. You're walking, maybe there's two or three front doors, right?
Very good point. I never thought about it like that.
So, but the way, I mean, Toronto's bylaw right now, the way it's written, you're not allowed to have two front doors on a house if one of them accesses a secondary suite. I can build a house with two front doors if it's just two front doors going into the same unit. I could put like 6 front doors on a house if I wanted. but once one of them goes to a secondary suite, that's no. And that's to me, that's such an absurd provision, and it's rooted in there's no planning justification for it whatsoever. And it's something that the city is looking to change. So
very interesting. And if you had to guess, because I know the 3 units on one lot is, I guess it's in draft right now. If you had to guess when we actually know what we can and cannot do, like how far out is that from today?
This year, for sure. This year.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
There is a big push in the city, politically and at the provincial level as well, to figure this out. And so I don't think it'll be. Yeah, I'd be very surprised if this carried into 2024 before you had any sense of what the city was even looking to do. Even last year in June, there was a report on the city's multiplex study on the Planning and Housing Committee agenda. If you follow the city's agendas, I can send you that report if you want. But it sort of outlines what the city wants to do, including that front door bit.
Okay.
and it gives a sense of what the policies are going to be. But now, I mean, even the mayor ran on a platform of housing. And and Councillor Bradford, the chair of Planning and Housing Committee. You know, they're both very interested in advancing this. And I had a meeting with one of the new councillors 2 days ago, and it was, you know, housing was front and center. It's amazing how it's become the issue in, you know, across the city when you talk to people about planning. And it's great that people in political offices are, you know, I think genuinely trying to help figure this out. So
Yeah.
2023, like, you know, keep your eyes peeled.
The full video will be released next week. And if you found this useful, please like and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, you guys know I love talking real estate. You can text or email me and I'd be happy to help. I'll see you in the next one.